Okay, so I have just finished putting all of my pictures into the presentation and I am really tired. But the good news is I've still got 2 half days before I have to give the presentation. So we're right on schedule in terms of getting my practice done before the actual day. So what I thought I'd do now is just show you what I've been doing and how I've been changing the rough slides that I made and enhancing them with pictures. So if we look at the first example, if we look at this slide here, which is climate change, you can see what the problem with my rough draft is straight away. It's all text. And the first big problem is that that's really boring. Nobody wants to look at a bunch of text. The second and more fundamental problem is if I'm just showing people slides of text, well, they can just read that, right? They can read it by themselves. I could send the presentation on email. They can read it in, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes instead of listening to me for 30 minutes. So what is the point? A presentation is fundamentally different to a publication. A presentation is about making that human connection with people and hopefully using that as a better means of communicating with them. So what I've done is this, which as you can see looks completely different. Now we only have 2 images. This is important. On this slide, I will be talking through this slide and what it means. So I really do not need any text on here at all. Usually though, in a research presentation, we are dealing with very complex topics. So usually you will need at least some text on your slides. So probably a balance of diagrams and a little text, as little text as you can get away with. Here's another example. Here you can see there is just a little bit of text here to go with these pictures. Again, not much, as little as I can use, which in this case is literally almost like a newspaper headline style. Okay, so let's have a look at this slide. This slide has a little surprise to it. It's 2 diagrams, but actually I've got some animation on it. Now, my students will tell you that I hate animation, but that's not really true. I just want to see animation only where it is absolutely necessary. And that means for every time that you use it, you need to be able to say to yourself, why do I want animation here? What is it doing that I can't do with a simple picture and a simple slide? And the reason for this is you can see we are showing a message. The animation enhances the message. We can also see the problem of using animation where it's not necessary. We can see it right here on this slide. Before we use the animation to bring in the whole picture, this slide looks vacant and empty and very unbalanced. We have a nice border around this picture here, but this one is all off by itself and it's flat, doesn't have a border, and there's this great big waste of space in the middle. This is something that is very difficult to get around when you're using animation. So you either start with a really badly designed slide or you finish with one. Usually animations make your slides look bad. So if you don't need them, don't use them. But this is an example where the animation works very nicely indeed. So we have a slide here which is about the hydrogen economy. So we're starting with some form of renewable power. We're using electrolysis to produce hydrogen gas. We're shipping it around the world. We are distributing it locally, and then we are distributing it to our cars or ships or whatever, where it is being used in fuel cells. But here, because of animation, I can show why we don't have the hydrogen economy yet. Our catalysts aren't good enough yet. We are wasting so much energy trying to produce hydrogen from water. And we don't have the global distribution network yet. We're building it, but it's not there yet. And we don't have the local distribution networks yet. So the animation here adds to the information in a way that is very smooth and easy to understand, and it doesn't ruin the design of the slide. But examples like this, frankly, are far and few between. So you might well find that you never need to use animation in your presentations. Now, another important addition that I've made is the slide numbers. These are so important. Very easy to do. Just go to PowerPoint, go to Insert, go to Page Numbers. And you can do, PowerPoint will add those page numbers automatically. The one thing I don't like though is PowerPoint makes them small and out of the way. I much prefer them to be larger where everybody can see them. In the top right corner, for example. It's very easy to fix this, and what I do is I change one of these numbers and put it where I want it to be, and then I just copy and paste to every slide. Make sure you choose your placement to make your slide numbers very easy to see. I prefer the top corners, either left or right. The reason slide numbers are so important is that it makes it easy for people to ask you questions, and you want questions. Imagine you go to a conference or some kind of research meeting. You've got 5 people making presentations that day. Most people get maybe 2 questions. You get 5, 6, 7, 8 questions. Everybody will realize that your talk was important. It doesn't even matter if they weren't really listening. If everybody's asking questions, left, right, front, back, all those questions coming to you, everybody sits up and pays attention. You want questions. If you've worked on this talk, you've made your presentation, and especially if it's your own research, you will know the answers. Now, one important tip for slide numbers is always make sure you have slide number 1 on your title slide. Most people start on the first slide of their presentation, but I think this is a mistake, and I'll show you why. When somebody asks you a question, they might say, "Can we go to slide number 7, please?" On your screen, your presenter screen, you click slide number 7, but the number on the slide itself is actually slide number 6. You've got the wrong slide, and I see this kind of confusion all the time. It's very simple. Just make your first slide, your title slide, number 1, and then your slide numbers, and what PowerPoint is telling you are your slide numbers are the same number. Okay, so I've got my slides done now, and now it's time to practice. Now, this is how people normally practice their presentations. Right? They just look at their slides, they think about what they're going to say, and they think, right, well, it's up here, I know what I want to say, so I'll just stand up there and say it. And that never works. It never works because it's not until you actually say the sentences out loud that you have to stop and think about how they fit together. And if you don't properly practice, I guarantee you'll come to a point where this slide doesn't match with that slide. How do I get from slide 3 to slide 4? Or, hang on, didn't I just say that exact thing 2 slides ago? Do I need to say it again? So you need to say your talk exactly as you will say it on the day out loud. You don't have to use exactly the same words every time. That's okay. But if you're going to stand up and deliver your talk to a room, then for your practice, you stand up here and pretend that you are presenting to a room. You look to the left of your imaginary room, you look to the right of your imaginary room, all the way to the back. When we do a video on actually making the presentations, we will go over again just how important that is. But even in your practice, you are talking to the front right, talking to the front left, talking to the back left, talking to the back right of your imaginary room. Even use a pen, imagine it's a laser pointer, and every time you change a slide on your presentation, use your imaginary laser pointer to point at your imaginary projector screen. And this way, your body knows what you're doing, your voice knows what you're doing, and even if you don't use the exact same words on the day, you have this kind of muscle memory that helps drive you through. You're clicking on the buttons of your presentation, moving to the next slide. And if you do it like this, you will find all of those little difficult places, all those little slips, all those times where your video doesn't work, and you will be able to just fix those problems before you get to your presentation room. But this presentation is going to be an online presentation. So that means I'm going to be sitting down and talking into a camera. But instead of looking left and right round the room as I would normally do for a practice presentation, I'm going to make sure that I am looking directly into that webcam when I'm speaking, and then back to my slides when I am mousing to draw attention to a particular part of my slide. One of the crucial things you'll need to do is to time your presentation as you do your practicing. So get a stopwatch of some kind and make sure you time your presentation from your first word to your last word. And don't just time it, but also get a feel for where you should be at what time. So I'm planning to do about 30 minutes of talking tomorrow with a bit of audience participation added on top of that. So I am going to time myself as I go through. And I'm going to leave spaces where I expect to be asking questions to my audience. So I'm going to leave a space. Does anybody know about this kind of thing? What do you think this means? Leave some time. Da, 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 da. Yeah, okay, that's a good answer. Da, 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 carry on. And I'm going to check my timing as I go through. How am I doing? That'll really help me on the day, because when we get to the real presentation, let's say I'm on slide 5, where am I expecting to be at slide 5? Am I expecting to be 5 minutes in, 10 minutes in, 15 minutes in? I've got 12 slides ready to go. Now, this is a little tricky for me because about somewhere between 12 and 14 slides, I usually stretch out for an hour and a half. So if I'm expecting to get through that lot in only 30 minutes, I'm going to have to talk not faster, but less about each slide than I normally do for a university lecture. So I need to focus on that. Where should I be at slide 5? Where should I be at slide 10? How am I doing? And then when I come to give my presentation tomorrow, I will be able to watch that timing and make sure that I am on schedule. See if I need to maybe cut out a few things to speed up, or whether I've got a bit more time to talk in more detail about a few things and slow down. But what I absolutely must not do is speed up my talking. If I talk too fast, nobody can understand what I'm saying. Okay, everything's going really quickly. I'm getting through all my words, but nobody can follow what I'm saying if I'm talking too quickly. All right. Likewise, if I've been given 50 minutes to fill, and especially for a school presentation, I do not want to finish 20 minutes early. So if it turns out that I can get through all of this material in only 12 minutes, I'm going to be in a bit of trouble. Luckily, as I've said before, I love talking. So finishing early is not going to be a problem for me as long as I know how I'm getting on with these slides. I will know that, okay, I'm on slide 5 and it's only been 7 minutes. That's much too early. I can then say to myself, all right, let's spend a bit more time talking about some more details. Let's have a bit more audience participation time. And you can only do that if you have properly practiced your presentation exactly as you will do it on the day. This is why presentations take 2 weeks. 2 places that people often get caught out are right at the beginning and right at the end. So for every practice you do, start with your very first word and finish with your very last word. It certainly helps if you have, for just the beginning and the end, you have a definite sentence that you say every time. Okay, I always start with good afternoon, good morning, whatever. My name is Dr. Andrew Robertson, and I'd like to talk to you today about da 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 da. And then I always finish with, and finally, I'd like to thank you for your attention. Thank you. In the middle of the presentation, uhs and ums are fine. They are natural and they are absolutely going to happen. And again, we'll talk about that when we come on to the video about actually making the presentation. But that very beginning part, that very end part, I like to have it nice and smooth. And especially that first sentence. If you can get that first 2 sentences out smoothly, automatically, it'll make things so much easier. Because at the beginning, you're really nervous, right? And everybody's looking at you. At this presentation, I'm going to have over 90 people. So you really feel the nerves at a time like that. If your first 2, maybe 3 sentences are already practiced and ready to go, it'll be so much easier. All right. So I'm going to do my practice and I'll come back to you guys later. Okay, thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. Start again. So let's begin with this analysis is starts begin blah blah blah. Okay, and then the last 10 year blah 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 blah. Climate engineering is the idea that we as humans can control the climate. All right? So okay, so that's my first proper run through. I have come in at 45 minutes almost exactly, with leaving time for audience participation. That's not bad, actually. That would give me 5 minutes for questions. I would rather have 10 minutes for questions. So I might try and make things work a bit smoother. I definitely had a few times where I just completely ran dry, didn't know what I wanted to say. My biggest problem, which is a common one, is that I wasn't ready for the next slide. I'd forgotten what was coming up after this next slide. So moments that I thought would be a little surprise weren't a little surprise because I'd already said that point. So that's a very good case for using presenter tools. Now, presenter tools are where I have one screen and the audience has a different screen. So I can see which slides are coming up and I can see my timing, I can see my notes, but the audience only sees the main screen. So if I have my computer and a separate screen, that makes things so much easier. But we are doing this on Zoom tomorrow. PowerPoint won't let me do 2 screens on one computer, but I'm hoping that I can hook up to my separate monitor and that Zoom will let me use my separate monitor as a separate screen and that my audience will only see that one. What I need to do now is make sure that I know the order of my slides and what's coming next. Okay, so I'm about to start. I've got about 10 minutes left to go. I did one more practice today, but I knew what I wanted to say. I just wasn't sure about those transitions. And that third practice was really useful because this time I wasn't focusing on what I was trying to say, and because I already knew it, and that meant that I could really spot, I should have this slide before that one. Or maybe I don't need this text here. And I made a few last minute changes that I think really worked, made the presentation a lot smoother. So I always say you need at least 3 proper run-throughs, maybe more depending on how experienced you are. And that's really worked for me. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing everybody and getting started. It's good to see so many faces today. Thank you very much for inviting us all along to talk to you today. I'm really excited about this. So let's get started. All right, thank you very much, everybody. It's been wonderful to see you today. I've had some great questions, and take care. Well, I think that went very well. I'm a little bit tired now, so I think it's time for an ice cream. Well, I hope that watching me prepare this talk has been useful for you. And I hope that you've been able to see that you can't just start a presentation 2 days before you've got to give it. You need time to research your topic, think about what you want to put in it, and then time to prepare your slides, find the best images, and time to practice as well as the rest of your life and the other things that you've got to get on with. So if you remember nothing else, then just remember, presentations take 2 weeks. This, of course, will not be our last video. So if you like this one, I'll make more. And if you subscribe, you'll know when they come out. Everyone's a winner.